All righty. Hello, hello.
Hi, Don.
Hi, Mike. I look different than last week, don't I?
Mike. Okay.
Hi, Ron. I missed you too.
Thank you for that. I wasn't feeling the love.
Not at all. Just referencing Mike's comment from last week.
Oh, took you long enough.
The hell did
Been
I
a busy dude.
That's better, Tony. Hi, Laura. Hi, Nicole. What's up, Mr. Dan? Wow, just hand signals now. We're just like on the range, right? Yeah.
We can say so much more that way.
Sometimes we can. Sometimes we can.
It's a little bit better. Good to see you tonight, Dan.
Thank you. I unmuted so I can wave and talk both.
Did you reach out like I asked you to?
I did.
Everything
No
good?
response. No response yet. I just said I'm interested.
All right. I think you're exactly the right person.
I appreciate that. Hard to tell whether I need any more responsibilities, though. I'm getting old, you know. Time to retire.
I was just thinking that a few minutes ago.
That I'm getting old and it's time for me to retire?
No, not you.
Oh, I thought that's what you said.
No. I ran for the first time in a couple weeks.
Ah, yeah.
I'm off pace.
I got you.
And although it wasn't bad, it hurt everywhere again.
I play competitive table tennis, and in the COVID era, I have a pitching machine. You know, I have a machine that just shoots it. So I do that every other day anyway for an hour.
How does that feel?
I can feel it in my legs.
Really?
I need to do it more often. I mean, when I skip a couple of days, then I can feel the muscles. It's not like we all used to play ping pong in the basement with a beer and a cigar. It's more like if you tuned into the Olympics. That's what I'm aiming for.
Wait until you feel it tomorrow, Don.
I'm planning on getting up early and doing a little run tomorrow morning to kind of ease that pain. The more the blood goes through your body, the quicker it heals. And even though it may hurt as bad, you're also feeding everything that hurts. So, or at least that's what I'm telling myself.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Dennis.
Hey, Dennis.
Oh, Ron's even here. Good grief. I guess I'm gonna.
You know what they say, Don? Pain is weakness leaving the body.
I used to believe that.
Non-girlfriend is with him.
I have some really good things that popped into my mind just within the last couple days, and inspired mostly by Jason's post. So Jason, do you want to open that up? We got some new people in here too. Mark, welcome. I don't believe I've seen you before. And everybody else, it seems like maybe once or twice.
which part are you hoping that I open up, Don, talking about my personal insecurities and how my hiring process works?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with personal insecurities, but it does bring about a change from maybe what you have done in the past. And I'm interested to kind of explore that a little bit. Just because I've had tons of emails on it.
You mean people just emailed you about what I posted, or like people have had the same dilemmas and asked you for your guidance?
Yes.
Okay. I had a lot of people that just direct messaged me with their opinions and stuff, and it's always appreciated to hear what people say, and I can respect that. You know, many don't want to be have their comments commented on, so that's okay too.
So what was the question that you posted that?
Well, like many questions that I post and ask for a select audience, and I don't really know who that select audience is, so you have to self-identify to begin with. But the premise was, I would like to know if other people who are in charge of either hiring or maybe what I would call vetting potential rider coach candidates have went down the road of hiring somebody who has desire, but no actual motorcycle experience outside of a license and or a BRC completion. And if they've had and teaching experience, of course, and had great results with that. And I had, of course, a lot of people that chimed in and said, oh yes, that was me. I am that candidate. And I thought, well, okay, that's one thing. But I wondered how many people have actually been in a hiring position and hired somebody that checked all of their boxes except the ones that are motorcycle related. And previously, I've only ever had motorcyclists try to apply. So this is new to me altogether.
So Jason, you posted that on the MSF RiderCoaches site?
Yes, on the Facebook, know it all site that we all laugh at and occasionally ask questions. Yes, sir, I did.
So I responded to you, yes, absolutely. And I've been in that position. And to elaborate, I would prioritize all those other skills people need to have to be a good to great rider coach, other than riding skills, above riding skills. So I've hired people who have minimal experience. I do not like having one of the criteria for hiring a coach, an X number of miles ridden, or miles ridden in the past 5 years, or average miles ridden in the past year. I think that criteria is useless.
I Dan, also think that those criteria probably aren't anything that I've ever checked, but one of the big ones is you have to be willing to come for a street ride with me. And if you're not, I'm not sure you're ready to be out there telling people how to ride motorcycles if you won't go for a street ride with the staff.
I would see nothing wrong with that, and part of the process for me hiring people, not only the normal application process, and then a lot of people use the shuffle cones, do some range aiding for a while. I had a pretty extensive group screening activity that included both demonstration of riding skills and a variety of riding experience, parking lot riding stuff. Show me that you can ride. Show me that you can ride the kind of skills that are needed for demonstration, as well as impromptu practice teaching skills. Draw a subject from the hat and go to the front of the room and facilitate a learning experience for the rest of us sitting in the class. That was part of part of screening, and then those people, we had multiple people doing ratings.
That's some pretty sound advice, Dan. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So what about if we take that to the next logical step of that person became a rider coach and maybe does fine as a rider coach, but yet motorcycling did not stick for them. And so now you have a rider coach who doesn't actually ever ride motorcycles. And technically that's part of our requirement, right? The MSS requirement for us. And doesn't continue to learn anything about motorcycling for themselves. Then what happens then?
I send them to Minnesota to become a rider coach.
Apparently, because there are a few here.
Well, you know, the idea that we all have and ride motorcycles, the year that I started, I might have gotten a little bit of testosterone poisoning myself at a national event, and I blew up a motorcycle engine. I worked my entire first season so I could put that bike back together, and people asked, do you ride? I'm like, absolutely. I've made many laps around this range. I will ride every motorcycle that's here. But I didn't get any legal street riding in for an entire 12 months. Are
you talking about the 636?
Oh gosh, that guy's here. So I know that every one of us, you know, we're all our very own special interest groups, and there's going to be situations where those things happen. But I guess I'm glad that Dan had some good ideas. Laura, yeah, if a person doesn't progress in my world, you're going to have to show me that you want to be there. You might not be there yet. Show me you want to be there. Just like we all show up here, some for the entertainment, but some of us are really looking for that nugget of knowledge that we didn't know because we want to be better. And I can work with that. But most of the time when I was hiring people was, of course, only riders that were applying. I tried very hard to encourage staff to, you know, refer a friend, somebody that you know can ride a motorcycle, not just call me and tell me about how awesome they are, and then chicken out when we talk about street ride. We had one person all the years that I worked at the college referred a friend. That young lady went for a ride with me and my brother, tell you about the ride from hell. And this lady stuck with us the entire time. She's a great person and a really good rider coach. But sometimes that doesn't just happen. And I also hope that all of the people want to get better, that want to take that extra class. And I guess I don't really care if somebody wants to get qualified or whatever to teach an advanced rider class or something else. Just go to something once in a while and want to get better. That's all I'm hoping for. And I you know, we all want, what was that was it level? Did we get to level 5 rider coaching yet? Is that walk in water and talk to Ray?
That's you.
Right.
You're level 5, Jason.
0.5 maybe. But you know, we get people that are willing to do the job. And now I'm looking at it going, holy crap, sometimes you really just need fog the mirror and read the cards. Good enough. And those people scare the hell out of me if that's all you can do. But sometimes good enough is where we start.
So just to be clear, Jason, the candidates that I'm talking about know how to ride and are good riders. It's a matter of amount and mileage. So I would select someone who has the characteristics that we're talking about, with a low or minimum amount of street riding, but can still demonstrate the skills, versus someone who has you know, rides 12, 15, 18,000 or more miles a year and has been riding for 20 years, but is low or lacking in the other kinds of skills. So never did I hire someone who had no motorcycling experience at all.
That was interesting.
Yeah, well, my apologies.
I don't think it's your fault.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that people have to deal with such things.
You couldn't boot them out.
I tried. They were hitting it hard. Every time I boot somebody, they'd come back in. And I noticed that somebody else was under my name as host. I thought it was maybe Lynn didn't change the name. So,
I thought that was you too. I did notice that.
yeah. So, you know, interesting. Sad.
You know, that's kind of interesting. We've been doing this, well, Zoom stuff and WebEx 9 months, and I've heard about this. It's the first time
Yep.
in almost 10 months now that I've had this happen.
Sure.
Yeah, me too.
But I've heard it happen in a lot of other places like classroom stuff. My daughter's school got hacked once.
And, you know, what do you do?
You shut her down and start over, man.
I know. So here could be the problem, you know. So maybe there's somebody on the mailing list and who got in and, you know, checked out, but
This is password protected, right?
it is, but it isn't. I've been hesitant to make it too restrictive.
Did you have a link on Facebook?
Oh, I had the link not on normal Facebook, but in Facebook groups. But it's also available on my website to just about anybody who would go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's possible that somebody lifted it off of that and just went with it.
Yeah.
So this makes it so I'm going to have to be more restrictive with the link, not make it so easy, have to use a password to get in.
Yeah, you want it free access to it, but you don't want to make it so that people won't come.
Exactly.
Make a registration type thing where you have to register for it.
We've done so well up to this point, and it's just kind of sad. But it will not take the wind out of my sails. Lynn, you may want to change your name so I don't kick you off.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
And thank you very much for doing this last week. I greatly appreciate it.
You know, I didn't even notice. Hang on a minute. Unmute. I didn't even notice before that. I noticed that there were 2 Donald Greens, but the penny didn't click. How come? So.
Well, we decided that one of those was a hacker.
Not me.
Because yeah, no, it wasn't you. There was someone with Don's name and a picture, a static picture.
The other guy. Well, I don't get, you know, well, is it just the challenge of hacking in that's the reward, or do they actually
It's a bunch of script kiddies. They found a script on the internet that might have gotten them in or something like that, and they're just having fun with it. There's no hacking involved.
True. So does anybody know who Jerry is? That bounced pretty quick. Hi, Mike.
Well, that was an interesting experience.
You know, what else could happen?
You know, I've heard of like Zoom meetings being hacked before, but I've never been a part of one that got hacked. So it's kind of an interesting learning experience.
Anybody know Jason Morris?
Name doesn't sound familiar to me, but I'm in Rochester.
Should we let Robin in?
Depends on how much he's had to drink today.
Okay, you need to get one out to Jason as well. You weren't
Is that
hacked,
Jason?
though. No, Jason's not in here yet because he doesn't have a link. And I don't see Rita here either.
I sent emails.
Says he's in the waiting room.
Jason's in the waiting room?
Which
No,
Jason?
that's Jason Morris.
Oh, a different Jason. Sorry, my bad.
Any
Anybody
Fugazi
know-
fans here? Fugazi? Anybody? So I was just on the, okay. Yeah. Hey,
Hey,
just saying, like, wow. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
hey, you
All
know,
right.
I promised an experience, didn't I?
Well, that was an experience.
Whew. I'm actually bummed because there was some great stuff happening already in the chat, and Rita posted like a paragraph. Now she's going to have to do that again.
If she gets back
Oh,
in.
that's right. She had, what was the topic she wanted to cover? There's a person I want to talk to.
Who?
Murray Haynes. If I said your name right. You're muted.
So I'm not getting Jason Morris as anybody that's associated with rider training. So, and he had the Linux thing on it, so makes me a bit cautious.
Oh,
Yeah,
what?
don't
We're
mess with that.
discriminating against Linux users now? Gee.
Well, it was a double indemnification check, Linux and not an MSF rider coach.
Uh-huh.
What does Linux have to do with that?
He's back again.
Who?
Maybe he's a rider coach.
Maybe.
Why did this all of a
How would
sudden
he?
become
How would he get the
terrifying?
link though?
He could just, I used another link that I had available already. So
If Jason
Still
Morris, I think Jason Morris is a coach from, he's from Total Rider, or it's either him or Jason Dean. But maybe you want to reach out to him in a chat context first. But
well,
if I know that name, I think he's a Total Rider coach. That's Texas. It's a dice roll though. Don't blame me if anything happened. And before Jason gets back in, if he's talking about the bike I'm thinking of, yeah, it was a Kawasaki 636 and he blew it up.
How did he blow it up?
By exploring Redline for too long of a duration.
Okay. Was this on track or on street?
This was on track.
636s were kind of prone to that.
I would
I don't
tend
know.
to agree.
I've flogged one for quite a while. It hasn't blown up.
So he's got one, and I got to ride it at Road America, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it's a
I've
great
seen a
race.
few that had spontaneous crankcase ventilation.
Spontaneous
Knock,
rapid
knock, cylinder 5.
event.
Yeah, right through the front usually.
Yeah. We call those in racing a spontaneous rapid disassembly event.
I wanted to, specifically, I don't know if it's this is the Murray. I don't know if this was specifically apology worthy, but I wanted to let you know on that last tribe talk when we were talking about New Mexico and the process of getting a coach there.
Yeah.
None of what I was trying to throw your way was intended to be personal.
Not taken that way. And in fact, I talked to Dan Orchowski, and he had passed your information on to the site coordinator down in Las Cruces.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I'm closest to. I think that's the person we talked to.
Yeah.
For me, it's a trigger word that I've experienced in other locations where you hear people express how much they need coaches.
Sure.
And then the follow up on that is how difficult it is to get into it. So I was trying to get that into context, but then I couldn't find my words. They were somewhere in the bottom of a really dirty glass of rum.
Yeah, well, we're actually down for the season right now in Santa Fe, and some other stuff with COVID in the state. It's just made it kind of a crappy season last year, but we're hoping to get things up and running. So my assumption is I'll be a site coordinator here in Santa Fe next year. So, hey, you know,
Nice.
yeah.
Should I say congratulations?
Well, it's
Is
hard
that like
to
a
say.
new? Is it a new gig for you, or?
Oh, no, I've been actually, I think I've been a site coordinator here for the state and for Harley since, I don't know, 2006, something like that. So,
Oh, well, then I retract my statement.
yeah, nothing new for me. It just, you know, it just got to roll with COVID and everything else that's going on. Kind of sucks.
We're not all back yet, are we? Okay. How do I copy the link?
We're busy one person at a time.
Rita's probably got a machete out, and she's like going to another state to deal with this head on.
I'm so alone.
Is this all
Could
direct link or any of that?
Can somebody send the link to Jason?
I will if you give me the. Why am I contorting myself to look at a laptop?
I don't know why.
It's like I'm like trying to. I can like it's movable. How do I get the link?
Probably too many martinis.
I posted it back on MSF RiderCoaches.
Okay, that could backfire real quick, man.
Well, we'll find out where the source is if it does.
Oh, yeah.
And once again, as everybody comes back on, apologize for that. Out of the control.
It's welcome to 2021 and the world as it is today.
Well, I think I'm sad to say this, but there's a potential that this is a normalization of our future.
Well, hey, you know, keeping people safe.
There's nothing on here. There's no new link. It just says, "Oh, what happened?" I'm at the top of the page now.
Yeah, I got an email that said we were hacked and joined here and went down and clicked on it and got to
And
here.
it worked.
Yeah, it worked just fine.
You see how quick that happened?
Wow.
It was like lightning.
Well,
See, there should be a way
to
to get the session ID, and you can just email the Zoom session ID. I just don't know Zoom well enough to know how to do that.
getting you a link.
I can ask my wife. She does a lot of Zoom
There we
stuff.
go. I can do this.
So, how do I get the link?
In the chat, I just posted
In
it.
chat. Okay, so click on chat.
Hey, Don, I was just happened to scroll through Facebook there. I know that Jason Morris popped up. He responded to Dennis, who said, "Hey, it's unfortunate we had to end the previous session." But Jason Morris says, "Uh-oh, what happened?" But that was kind of where it was left about 5 minutes ago. So
There is no link in the chat.
I just texted Dennis and let him know that there was a new link.
There it is. It's if you click on at least on my screen, the thing in the upper left-hand corner, it says Tribe Talk. It has a meeting ID. Actually, it has an invite link. Copy URL.
Okay, view, no meeting.
The very top left corner next to where it says recording.
I'm sorry to all of you lesser types. I'm on a Macintosh.
Oh, well, you may as well be riding a Harley then.
You're welcome.
Oh, hey, Robin, I'm on a Mac too.
Hold on. I'm on a Mac and it's working fine.
Yes, me too.
Oh yeah, my Mac's working okay.
Well, this whole thing's going smooth as butter. I just want to say, still haven't found the link and participants recordings. Oh, look at that.
There.
Okay, so
There's really
I
only
took a chance on Mr. Morris. If you would please let us know that you want to be here and you don't want to. Oh, thank you, God. I was
Jason
worried.
Morris, are you total rider, Texas?
Oh, hey, Jason, you made it back.
I think, Jason, you're total rider, Texas. Yeah.
I have certainly coached for them.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
All right. So I just wanted to make sure you weren't one of the disruptors. That's all.
Oh, I can't even imagine what happened.
I think the password needs to be coach. As long as somebody could say something coach.
The password needs to be bare naked ass because that.
See, I've got enough editing to do already.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
You've got
But
some.
while I'm doing this, hey guys, here, while we're getting this set up, I don't know how my camera's going to do for this, but check this out. Greetings from New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Where they have dirt roads.
Oh, I'm right next to the start of the path. That's the ATV path back there.
It goes where?
For miles upon miles of miles to your doom. There, I'm sending these out. Where's Rita? Let's see here. Rita. There we go.
I'm so
Paste
jealous of
this.
that.
Hey,
I
come
saw
on
his
down.
son the other day.
Hey, Jason
There's
here.
Jason.
All right, there's Jason, and then let me get a good view. Oh my, look at that! Jeez,
Wow.
this
Cool.
is a better one than. Yeah, I'm not complaining about it. I'll take it. I only get to
That
be
looks
here a
like
month, though.
dangerous ultraviolet radiation. I think you should avoid that. You should definitely hide yourself under clouds or inside under some snow.
Oh man.
All that thing is
Beautiful,
going to do is ruin all the wires and cables and tires on your bike. It's just going to wear all the parts.
Hey, by the way, Maggie Dean rode today. Just saying. Hey, Mags, you need to come see this. You need to see this.
I haven't touched
It's a good one. Just go through the kitchen. Come on out. She's in her slip. Okay, well, I apologize for this.
Did you get your soffit fixed, Carol?
Was it?
Yes, they got it done. The new drywall up today, and the
You getting it, Dan?
done.
Whatever. Okay. Got it? Got it. What's this do? Look at that. Huh?
No. If I get kicked off Facebook now for the next, however long, just so everybody knows, my post went against community standards. They've already notified me. They can't reply because so many people are dealing with COVID stuff. But if something happens to us, you know why.
Way to go.
on the keyboard.
What post goes against community standards?
The fact that this video was streaming on Facebook and all that stuff happened.
Oh, whatever.
They've already notified you about it?
Yep.
Will you turn on the
So
I'm in a video meeting, sorry.
Jason, where were we with your question?
Man, I have no idea. Ron took over the screen and then everything went to hell. Ron, what's going on down?
Ron,
I'll tell you what happened. Jason Morris has
now
Linux.
he's
That's what
awake.
happened.
I just want to know which of the primary controls was that one.
All right.
Ron who?
Do not let that
Ron
person
who?
in.
That was a joystick, wasn't it?
A kickstand for a very small bike.
Oh no. I can say I'm honestly glad I missed it.
You probably are, but the best part about the whole damn thing was Laura's face when it happened, because that was the only thing that was on my screen. And I was just like, oh boy, this is going to hell.
Very quickly, it went to hell.
Did anybody recognize it? That's the question.
I think it was Zuckerberg.
The screenshots. Somebody got screenshots, right? Because I would like you to send that to me for my birthday in like a blown up posterized form of just everybody and all that was happening. Yeah.
Get it printed and put on top of a cake.
Things.
There's me with my blanket and my cup of tea and my knitting, right?
I suppose. Okay, so with my question, Dan gave some pretty sage advice, but I think he's got a whole lot of experience, and I'm sure others do as well. But again, the question was, if anybody has turned out to have a terrific hire out of somebody that came in with minimal, if any, motorcycle skills, but had all of those teaching skills that, of course, those desirable qualities that we'd like to have.
Okay,
Did you make them a motorcyclist?
I got some information for you. It may or may not be useful, but in Illinois, we do a lot of hiring from classes. So student will go through and they have a standard that if the student gets less than 5 points on the written test and less than 5 points on the road test, they get an invitation to become a range aide / potential rider coach. And they've done that. The only requirement we have as far as rider coaches is they do have to own a motorcycle. So that's a qualifier. And they've had some very, very good candidates come through. So, I mean, and their only experience in riding is going through a BRC. They came through first-time riders, and they've had some very, very good coaches come through.
So who was it that ran into that potential candidate, and what specific skills caught your eye if he or she is on here?
That'd be Jason.
Oh, so why was that question posed? So I have multiple dilemmas in being that we're, doing the live stream. The part that I didn't put out there was this happens to be one of my coach's wives. She's an elementary school or high school, all school district Phi-Ed teacher. She has got coach written all over her from college to running the mountain bike club stuff at the city for the high schools and all that kind of stuff. And she hopped on a bike. And really when she came through class, she came through 3-wheel class because she wanted to do something different. And then at home, she got on one of the dirt bikes with the kids and chased them around the farm field, thought this is cool. And prior to the dirt bike thing, just in my exchange with this person, has always been, Sam, you're okay, but I'd really like your wife to teach with us. And in all honesty, the coach that I'm talking about is phenomenal. So I'm making a whole lot of assumptions, but from what I see, from athlete to coach to can ride a motorcycle and the ability to relate with people of all ages, that's something I could use. I could use reinforcement on that daily from somebody. And well, what the hell?
Can I spin on that for a second? Because Sam, you were talking about Sam. I mean,
yeah.
For a second, you guys, you took was a digression or a curveball there where you're talking about, experience versus coaching, but the anchor still drops in. There is something to be said for if we have both. And like Sam specifically is crazy skilled, but he never brings that to the conversation. So, the best of both worlds in that. Yeah, no, go on. I didn't realize it was Sam Cook.
You're right. So that particular coach is pretty awesome. We try and pump him up in class a little bit because it's funny to us because, of course, he's very humble. So when you mentioned the class at the end of it, that you've been taught by somebody that has an AMA #1 plate hanging on his wall, and he's just like, yeah, I ride motorcycles, whatever. It's fantastic. But the core of my dilemma, not so much Sam, how do I get Sam's wife to come teach with us? Because she's flipping awesome at whatever.
This is what has been bouncing around in my head. With specifics to that is the first thing is, does she want to? Because if she doesn't want to, then you're wasting your time and her time. And if she's forced to, it only gets worse. So, I mean, she has to come to it naturally. I mean, that's the crux of the whole problem. Now, she may be honored that you even asked.
The other dynamic you ought to consider, especially with her husband being so skilled and valued, is you change the dynamic of the business of the school by having husband and wife team there. Does he want to coach with her there? In addition to, does she want to participate in that? Are you willing to risk losing them both should something not go as planned?
Jason?
Well,
what do you think about that?
Like any business, that's definitely something to think about, but they will be the third set. So that is not new to me.
How about inviting her to become a range aide and just see if that's really what she wants to do? I mean, ask her to come and range aid and kick cones for a couple of classes and see if she wants to go further. Because a lot of times that gets people interested.
Without a doubt, Mr. Director, there's all kinds of steps that I plan on taking with, the obvious guy, maybe not so obvious for some, but with what Don said, it's got to be natural. If there's not a desire, which has been expressed that there is, kind of, but yeah, no, I need more motorcycle experience. Okay, cool. If we want it, I know a guy that can offer that. Aside from the person that apparently lives in her house is pretty good at it. If she wants the training, it's there and available. That's the kind of person that I'm looking for. What I'm honestly really curious about is this a model that I should be looking towards? Is it scalable? Is this something, should I be combing high school parking lots for motorcycles, figure out who the teacher is that it belongs to? I hope. Maybe it's a student, then we have a range aid for sure. And then just start looking at that as that becomes my new way of, advertising. Somebody who's already a teacher that happens to ride a motorcycle, and would you like to make some more money on the side in the summertime when you presumably don't have school?
You'd want to see them teaching.
Yeah.
Before they get hired? Yes, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't invite them first.
Oh, no, you can always invite them. But, the interesting thing is the modern teaching model in grade school and middle school and high school. You put those people on a range with a bunch of adults and you can really run into some interesting situations. Adult education, I mean, I really don't think about a rider coach. They can have a list of qualifications as long as your arm, but you never know until you get them on a range and actually put them in front of students to see what they do. We have a guy here who's been riding for years. He did education with the military. He's dedicated, got all the right stuff on paper. You put him on a range with students and all I get is complaints. So go figure.
Well, it takes all kinds, and we need to go through mentoring with anybody. So that's you can't hit a home run every time.
Yeah, no, and mentoring. I'm glad you brought up mentoring because you hear about level 1 through 4 rider coaches and how do rider coaches get from 1 to 4? How does that process work? And you can self-educate, you can teach, you can do all the rest of these stuff, but unless there's good mentoring there from somewhere, it's really easy to get off in the weeds. I mean, I knock on wood. I'm lucky. I had a lot of great mentors over the time that I've been coaching, and now I'm trying to hand some of that stuff back, but it's still a challenge.
So just to add a little bit more to the conversation from the research I did a couple of years ago, Jason, I asked all the program administrators and rider coach trainers what they thought about having teachers coach, and hands down, almost every one of them, I think with maybe one exception, said, no, teachers aren't the answer to this. However, if you look at all the characteristical traits and advantages of a teacher, they explicitly gave me all those characteristics as the person that they absolutely wanted to be the rider coach. So there's a dichotomy there of what they say they want and then what they really want. And so if you saw, yeah, I'm sorry, too many syllables. So if you saw my question to the comment on Facebook, it was, we've all heard that basically, that they tried teachers and teachers didn't work. And so that's when they went after people with motorcycle experience. But that was 50 years ago. And since then, the curriculums have changed quite a bit. In fact, we've been through at least two different rounds of curriculum. And what we've done is we've gone more towards facilitation and teaching, and also saying that we need to spend more time on behavior, not motor skills. So it's a different world now, 50 years later, from when they originally said teachers weren't the answer. So I give that, and I think you said it the best, or somebody said it the best. It's all about the balance of being able to do both and deciding which one is more important, the ability to teach or the ability to tell somebody else how you ride a bike.
You know, it's interesting because you know, in the class we have teachers that some of them really recognize, oh, this is, you know, the way you're teaching this is really kind of advanced, you know, adult learning stuff, and they're all on board. And other teachers are very resistant to it. And I suppose maybe that has to do with when they came into the teaching spectrum and how they were taught. So I have found that interesting because it runs both directions in my experience. And I would echo what Dan said. You know, it's a lot easier to teach someone to be a good enough rider for what we do. It's much harder to teach someone to be a good person and, you know, to have that empathy and communication skills and all the other stuff that goes into being a rider coach. I mean, what we do is teach people how to ride, right? So if we have someone that has all the other stuff in line, we should be able to tune up the riding part.
Well, we teach people how to ride, but it seems like the stuff I'm hearing from a lot of people in the industry is, you know, teaching people how to ride is one part of it. And again, my opinion is if somebody's competent and motivated, it's pretty straightforward to teach them how to properly operate a motorcycle so that they can get an endorsement. I think the bigger challenge is how do we inspire them as rider coaches to become riders whose primary directive, if you will, is being safe out on the road, is surviving in traffic.
That's come into discussion a lot.
Well,
there's been a lot of discussion about.
Yeah,
it's a great discussion.
Yeah, the term I use is strategic awareness. That's what I'm up for teaching people how to deal with is, you know, how do they strategically deal with traffic and surviving out there in that environment? The actual riding part, I mean, I'm sorry, you show them a few things and you shut up and you let the wheels turn. And generally people figure out how to ride a motorcycle. That's really the case. I mean, if you talk to Ray Oakes, I mean, what Ray Oakes will say to you, look, the two things are, what's the student outcome and how can we make them the best rider that they can be? And that's the real challenge. I mean, the thing that I struggle with, this is a different question. The thing that I struggle with is what do you do with the marginal student? The student who meets the objective, sort of, you make that subjective judgment. You say, okay, they met the objective and they'll pick up more clutch stuff in exercise 3. And the whole process through the class is they're barely meeting the objectives and then they pass with maybe 1 or 2 points to spare. And so what do you say to that individual once the class is over? Because as far as I know here, all of our testing is objective. And once that person gets that ticket, they can go to the DMV and they show the card to the DMV and bang, they got a endorsement and they're good to go. And they can go get on their Road King and ride the Sturgis next week if that's what they choose to do. So yeah, as rider coaches, how do we deal with that student out there in terms of giving them the greatest opportunity to succeed out there and not get themselves killed?
Well, I think a lot of that gets into the core of the curriculum. You know, for example, like the mission of the Transportation Research Board, or TRB, is to promote innovation and progress in transportation through research. In an objective and interdisciplinary setting, TRB facilitates the sharing of information on, oh, somebody else read it. But I think it gets into the relatability of the coach versus the relatability of the curriculum.
I would take that one step further Murray, in the fact that, the standards are not set necessarily by the curriculum as much as they are the state
Oh, of course.
government that oversees it. And
Yeah.
so if that is the objective, and I would argue objective, sometimes subjective result meets the requirements of the state government or the jurisdiction, then we've done our job within the confines of what we're allowed to do. I think sometimes we take ourselves a little bit too seriously and want to do more, and that's not wrong. And in fact, it should be applauded. But also remember, this is just teaching, at least for the BRC novice.
It's a basic rider course.
Yeah,
No,
it's a basic rider course.
totally agree. Basic rider course. And I think the jurisdictions set the process, but I mean, I'm kind of a Boy Scout.
So like,
I'm kind of a radical guy because I believe in helmets. I believe in gear. I believe in tiered licenses. I have friends that are from Europe and from, Australia. I got a buddy in Australia. First thing he got was a pink plate on the back of his bike, limited to 250 cc's with a big L stamped on it. So everybody out in traffic knew he was a new learner and he just got his permit and they should watch out.
So
One of the
I
things we
only agree with many of the things that you are saying.
I love the fact that Don, you said it's like you're doing a good thing just by philosophizing.
Hey, too many syllables.
There's beer involved. Going through the motions to think about these things in depth. How about that? But the students aren't gonna sit and watch you go through those motions in front of them. So by the time you get to them, you, depending on your class, I mean, being able to read the class, you're gonna have to bring the result of those observations, those introspections, to what you're doing, and that's not always gonna work. It just isn't always gonna work,
But when we review their skills evaluation with them, that's one of our last opportunities maybe to impart some wisdom or share our observations. And sometimes that observation is, hey, you know what, you passed your test, but you did a lot better on your test than you did during practice. Let's talk about the areas that you need to devote some extra practice to.
Sure.
On your test, you did X, Y, and Z, but in practice, you did this. In the real world, that's going to put you off into the weeds. So, before you go out and jump into a big bike and, a crazy situation, you maybe need to be thinking about some extra parking lot practice. And usually they know that before you have that conversation. Half the time they're coming to you saying, oh, I know, wow, I'm so relieved I passed, but I know I need a lot of practice. I'm not going to do anything, wacky. So, I think we have to be frank with them.
Oh, no.
We also need to give them resources. And like one of the things we have is we do get the Honda booklets, which have ways to set up exercises in parking lots based on parking spaces. Use resources that are available to you to give your students.
Jeff, I don't know if you guys remember it, but I'm going to say 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, there was a lot of criticism of the MSF. People from all over the industry that were involved were saying, gee, the MSF, they basically have dumbed things down so that people can get endorsed. And what was happening is, especially with Rider's Edge, people were getting an endorsement. They were passing minimally. They were getting an endorsement, going to the state, going and getting on a V-Rod or a Road King and killing themselves. And so there was this whole reaction to what the MSF was doing. And so, Lee Parks came out of that, and now he runs the state of California. Brett Tax has got a curriculum in Washington and in Oregon. And this all came out of criticism of the MSF, not to mention that our BRC upgrade now with the shift into dealing with becoming a responsible rider as opposed to just getting endorsed. I mean, it's interesting to see that whole evolution and where we're at as an industry right now. I totally agree with Lynn. I mean, I've had the conversation where I've said, okay, great. You passed the BRC. You now can go get a license to practice. And what I'm going to suggest is get some tennis balls, cut them in half, throw them down in a parking lot, practice this, practice that, get your skill set up before you get out into traffic. Sure. I mean, that's good stuff, but.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt for just a second. I'm going to interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is me taking it to the next level of coaching. So I think to me, that is what you're essentially asking, right? Is what is our next level of coaching, right? So follow up. Well, follow up. How much follow up do you have with your students? Okay, so this is kind of a discussion I have with individual coaches and things is how do you follow up? The first step is how do you interact? Like before your class, do you have your students' contact information, right? Are you personally reaching to them as their rider coach, not through the dealership, not through MSF program, not through your state program, as a rider coach? Are you reaching to your students? All right, so you introduce yourself. You check in with your students. Your students already know, hey, this is going to be one of my rider coaches, right? So you have their contact information after class. How often are you following up? And you say, right after you did your eval, we discussed so-and-so. This is about 2-3 weeks later. How's that going? How's that practice going? Did you get that bike? I would love for you to come and check out and come and use our parking lot. I would love to see how you're doing. Keep in touch. Let me know. They don't care until they know you care, right? Follow up with your students. Check on them. Especially this is how we build our tribe also, guys, right? Follow up with that. Wow, you would make a great rider coach in a 3,000-4,000 miles, right? Follow up. That's the answer to your question is follow up with your students, see how they're doing. And that's what you're gonna do.
Okay, so what I can say, having worn both caps for a period of time, state program doesn't happen. There's no pre-contact. The rider coach gets a list. They might call if they're motivated. They might call the students and say, hey, I'm your coach. I'll see you here. There's no post follow-up. Riding Academy, Harley Davidson will tell you this is how the process works. And they have a whole process for your coaches need to call people. The sales guy needs to be a point of contact in a dealership. There needs to be follow-up afterwards. There needs to be all this, exactly what you're talking about. The difference in New Mexico is the state program will say, we're a training program. Harley Davidson is a marketing program. Our job as the state is to train motorcyclists to ride motorcycles. The job of the Riding Academy is to sell Harley Davidsons.
Okay, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to agree and disagree because I said as a rider coach, I didn't say as a training site. I said as a individual rider coach, what are you doing? What are you doing to make sure your students are doing better? Because the dealerships and the people that I work with in the state department, we do hundreds of people, right? I mean, last year I had all these classes, right? I can promise you from the discussions I've had with my fellow rider coaches in my fellow state, there are probably only a handful of us that even know our students' names 2 weeks later because we send them, hey, how you guys doing? We'd love to check in with you. Yes, I am a Facebook person. If I have a friend request from a student that comes in and I know that these are students that are really, really going, and I'm going to follow up with them. I'm going to be don't care. I'm going to accept their friend request because follow up in anything is important. So that's what I said. The dealerships don't tell, I'm a contractor for a dealership. Yes, they don't tell me that I have to do anything. I do that on my own. When they made the decision recently that come March, we're all doing e-course, I'm offering to go and do the week before class. I'm going to say, hey guys, I'm sending you an email. Did you do your e-course yet? If not, hey, I'm going to set up a link, I'm going to set up a Zoom link. We'll go through it together. Right? Because
Don't make me come to your front door.
I want my students to be there Friday night starting successfully. And so, yes, so I believe that the answer to your question is your individual rider coaches need to take responsibility to follow up with their students. And that's how we build a safe riding community.
Well, you know, when you have coaches that
I'm
teach.
with you 100%. I'm with you 100% on that. That's what I do, but it's not every rider coach that works for the state and or Harley Davidson.
But you have
You
coaches
keep
that
picking on
teach
Harley
3
Davidson, but if you're a rider coach, you shouldn't worry about Harley Davidson or Suzuki or Kawasaki, whatever. You should be worried about your student, okay? I keep hearing you harp on Harley Davidson and how they only want to sell motorcycles. I guarantee you at my site, we don't sell motorcycles. We sell you how to ride a motorcycle. If you're a beginner, that's what we want you to do. The selling of a motorcycle comes second. You
Well, brilliant.
as a rider comes first. That's what comes first.
Not
so.
I want everybody. I'd like to push pause here for a moment because this is something we're all passionate about, and I just want to reiterate the fact that we all look at this a little bit different, and it depends so much on the context of where we're at and who we're working with and how we have to work differently in different places. So I understand the passion about this. And you know what? There's not one answer. It's a balanced answer of doing what we can when we can. So if you're able to institute a program where you can reach out before, reach out after, God bless you, because that's kind of what we're talking about here within the tribe. If you're not able to do that because of constraints, because your location, your site, your program doesn't allow you to do that, then the question is, how do you move to a place where you can stretch that out a little bit more to allow you to do some of those newer things?
Bringing a home run on that. And I was going to do it a different way. I was going to talk about how, like, you're looking at a guy who I will take 1,000 left turns to find a way to join in joking about Harley, but I mean it in the most harmless way I can possibly think of. Because again, we're all riders, right? And in personal experience with the Harley program, I don't think they're heavily, I mean, they are branded, and there is like an intermission where there's an opportunity to look at their gear. Okay, cool. It's not for me, but if I were invited to coach for them, I don't think I'd reject that, because they seem to do a pretty good job. They do follow the curriculum. But I don't even know how to segue this though. Really, there's one thing that's been floating in the air for a long time now, and that is the discussion topic that Rita was going to bring up. What I was going into with all this blather, this heavy technicality. What was it?
I'll table, not table. I will bring that in a little bit, because
I can't wait to see how well blended and just seamlessly formulated into the discussion. I've never even read that in my life. I have no idea what we're talking about here. So make it happen, Kevin.
I have a question.
Give Murray an opportunity to kind of come back with all this. He's had a lot of people talking at him. Let's listen to him.
Well, just one final point. I mean, I agree with everything here. I think as rider coaches, whether it's a state or a Harley program, our responsibility is to be conscious of student outcomes and be conscious of making people, riders and students, the best riders they can be. And I totally agree with Belinda. I spent a lot of time following up with people and trying to instill that in the rider coaches. What I will say is I started with Rider's Edge when we were using Buell Blast. And when I went to my training, what Harley Davidson said to me when I went to my training is as a program manager and administrator, not a rider coach, as a program manager and administrator for a dealership, your job is to bring new riders into the dealership and sell, and so that they can be sold motorcycles and become part of the Harley Davidson family. So those of us, I still coach for Harley Davidson. I think it's icing on the cake, but the reality is Harley wants to move metal. That's pretty much what they want to do. State programs, private programs like Jason is doing, it's all about training. And I think if you're conscious of that, then you can deal with it and you can be the rider coach that you want to be and develop the students that you want to do. I want to develop safe riders. I want to develop people who are going to be in this sport as a lifetime endeavor and who are going to maybe own Harleys and BMWs and Suzukis and whatever. I really don't care what they ride. But the fact is it's apples and oranges on a certain level when you compare Harley to state programs. That's all. And it's just something people should be aware of. That's all.
So you said Harley and BMW, so like both kinds of music, country and western.
Well, no, I've got okay. So right now I got 2 Ducatis. I got an Aprilia. We got a couple of BMWs. We had a Harley that we sold. It's like, who cares if it's got two wheels and an engine?
Aprilia is for people that think Ducati is too mainstream.
Careful now. This girl has both.
Murray, going back to your original.
I have metric and Harley too.
Going back to you.
It's all good. Sir, I'm sorry, Rick.
Going back to your original point about marginal successful students.
Sure.
A couple of things I use many times. I leave many classes with a couple statements. One statement is that I tell the students directly, when you get on your motorcycle, your whole family gets on with you.
You bet.
The other thing that I leave them with is not really a quiz question, but I ask them what's the most important character trait from the Wizard of Oz that they need? And the answer I'm truly looking for is courage. Because it's pretty self-evident. The student really needs to look at themselves in the mirror and make decisions as to if they're ready, should they drink and ride, whatever the case may be. But the courage to know, to self-assess, they kind of go together. And if I've done my job and I've given the students the truth from exercise 1 straight through the skill test, they generally know. I just feel that's about the best job I can do. The follow-up is great, Belinda, but some of us are limited, and I give them what I can, and hopefully they take a bite of the apple and continue with their education.
Totally agree. I mean, you guys have to understand. I mean, part of what I'm doing is I'm really good at poking a stick in a hornet's nest. I really want to hear from people what your opinions are and what you think about this, because bottom line is the most consistent thing I've been doing in my life is riding motorcycles. And I've been blessed with, since 2005, getting paid to ride motorcycles and racing motorcycles and doing all this stuff around motorcycles. So I am more than passionate about people being out there and being safe. And what I want to hear from people, reason I joined this, I said, oh, here's a bunch of rider coaches from all over the country and we're face to face so we can talk about this stuff, is, how do we move people from taking a class to get an endorsement, which is kind of the norm here. I'm in a little cocoon here in New Mexico.
Physically at gunpoint.
Half our people are endorsed here in the state. So how do we move people from taking a class to getting an endorsement to saying, I'm going to wrap my head around being safe because I want to ride my entire life. And I want to take more classes. I want to expand. I want to learn, how do we move people from, I just want a license, to, I want to be a skilled motorcyclist. That's my big question right now, is that whole challenge. It's huge.
It is huge, and I will answer it as succinctly as possible. And you're not going to like it.
Cool.
We have to change the culture, and we begin changing the culture by having the right coaches.
Sure.
And begin having the right coaches by doing things like Jason is, where he's looking hard at how he is selecting coaches. And I hate to wrap this around back to myself, and I'm sorry, but if you go and you look at the research that I posted that I did, Jason, some of those questions are answered on that page. You can get at it and read it at your own leisure. But the fact is, we have to change the culture. And I preface all of what I said with, I watched Brent Tack's, I didn't watch it. I listened to his audio podcast this week with his Australia friend. And
it's a good one.
It's a good one because it does provoke questions for us all. What I will, the one criticism I have about it is it points a finger at all rider coaches in a blanket statement, or all MSF rider coaches in a blanket statement. And I think maybe that's why Tribe Talks came across or has grown, is because if we're going to point fingers at other rider coaches, we have to be better ourselves. We shouldn't be pointing. What we should be doing is saying, hey, rider coaches, come in here and learn with us.
Right.
Instead of criticizing people and how they do stuff, we should be saying, well, help me to understand why you're doing it that way. And can I show you something different that might be useful to you? And so that would be my one criticism of that podcast is sometimes I don't think everybody who's talked about in that way is able to say, okay, well, tell me how we can be better, and really mean it. Usually the defense mechanism goes up and we say, well, I don't want to listen to that guy. And by the way, I've invited Brett here. No response.
Yeah, he's pretty busy guy. But and I agree with your point, is that, you know, the criticism. Well, so if you think, is anybody here old enough to remember the MRCRSS?
Yeah, plenty.
No, but
okay.
I've got a question when you're done.
Okay, so MRCRSS was like being in boot camp. Okay, a lot of yelling, a lot of arm waving. It was just like crazy. And if you don't do this, you're out of here, and that kind of stuff.
Preaching to the choir. We're in a different place now, man.
Well, sure, but here's the progression. So then the BRC comes along, and we have structured flexibility. And what happens after 2000, about 2006, is everybody's so far out in the weeds on what's appropriate that that's where a lot of that criticism came from. So now we're doing the BRC too. So we have more structured flexibility. So the question I have for Don, and which I agree with Don 100% here, is same with Rick, is where does our responsibility lie as rider coaches? I mean, on a certain level, we're responsible to the curriculum, okay? On a second level, we're responsible to our state. And so we're limited by both the curriculum and by our state program and what they've invested in. But with what Belinda was saying is, what's our spiritual, if you will, responsibility to our students as rider coaches? And I'm one that believes that Oaks built the structured flexibility into the program that lets us be that rider coach that Belinda's talking about. I think that's, and that's an individual decision that we make. And so to talk to folks, to talk to Jason is, how do we mentor and inspire rider coaches to be that extra special coach that somebody remembers 5 years later, and they go back to Jason and said, you know what, dude, you saved my life because this came up and I thought, God, what would Jason do here? And I immediately remembered what he taught me in class, and that saved my bacon. So
I think the answer that you're looking for is right in front of you. All these people in this place. And I think I can vouch. I think I can vouch for everyone in this room that this is those people. So I want to move on just a little bit. I got 2 questions. One is from Rita, and something that she posted a little bit earlier.
Take a really deep breath before you do this. Really just
Hey,
make it happen.
I don't have to read it like the cards. I can paraphrase on this one, Robin. So Rita has spent a lot of time with the Transportation Research Board, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that they provide to people involved with transportation. And the best thing about it is it's interdisciplinary. And so by meaning interdisciplinary, all kinds of transportation, and how do all those things come together to meld to make transportation safer in the United States. And so they do a lot of research, and the research supports policy decisions, and they really promote the technical excellence of everybody, the interdisciplinary ends in transportation, into using this information to change how safe the roads are. Sure. She brought up the fact that there are 893 different sessions available for the Transportation Research Board, and only 3 of them mention motorcycles. So how do you think we're represented as motorcyclists on this huge influential policy making and research taking machine? And she'll let me know if I screwed that up. Don't worry.
Well, no, I think it's interesting because I'm
statistically.
Statistically, I'm guessing that what part of the driving public do motorcyclists make up? 3 to 5%, something like that.
We're represented statistically.
Yeah.
Well, we are underrepresented in some places and well overrepresented in others.
You bet.
And so with that in mind, don't you think that maybe we should be mentioned more in research, or more research should be directed toward balancing out the statistics a little bit more?
Totally agree. I mean, who's read the Hurt Report? Do you guys know the Hurt Report at all? It basically said that motorcyclists were killed by car drivers turning left in front of them, by running off corners in rural areas, and by the use of alcohol while riding. And I forget, it was a long time ago. Well, now if you look at statistics through some of the folks that you're talking about, a lot of the stuff about path of travel violations are due to motorcyclists speeding, motorcyclists acting inappropriately, motorcyclists not making themselves seen. The whole thing has shifted just a little bit, and it's kind of an interesting shift. So I would love to see what Don's talking about here. Let's do more research. Let's find out why people are dying. Why doesn't training have any effect after 6 months?
Rita has added, and by the way, she's having technical problems tonight, so bear with us as we read and translate. 893 sessions in a conference going on right now. 17,000 participants are attending. Usually happens in Washington, D.C. in January. But, you know, why aren't we represented better in that? And this goes, I'm going to tie this into something else. I wish I could remember what it was because I got drifted. We're just, you know, we've got 5,000 plus rider coaches and only 200 or 300 show up to an IRETS. This email goes out to almost over 800 rider coaches now, and we get 25 people here. In fact, we had more hackers in here tonight, percentage-wise.
Bare naked ass.
Yes. So
Hackers
what do we have?
Motorcycle safety.
I think they were, and stick shifts and side stands, but you know, what do we have to do to get people more curious, more motivated to research and support our community?
All right. Well, I'm an irresponsible half adult. So what if we use IRETS as the example? I've wanted to kind of check this out a couple of times, but at the same time, there's money involved in getting there. Let me just say this, that I do enjoy coaching and I appreciate motorcycle safety, but discussing motorcycle safety is not my incentive to do this. I'm sure that I would get a lot out of it professionally, but I'm speaking strictly from my irresponsible core. I want to go riding. Maybe it's in an area that I can afford to get to. And I'm not doing this to make myself look bad. I'm doing this to give you the worst case scenario perspective is, do I have time? Do I have the money to get there? Is there anything for me to do that doesn't have to do with isn't the science of motorcycle safety interesting? I mean, yeah, it is. After a while, am I tipping my head back and you're hearing me snore and they put the mic under me? I mean, I don't need to be rude saying it that way. I just, I want to put that up front and loud and proud. I want to be the guy if I have to be that guy.
It's very. Every one of us that have attended for our first time once, and probably walked into it with maybe not exactly similar thoughts, but I certainly walked into it and, okay, what the hell is this going to be other than, boy, I hope it's worth my time. And it happened to be, so I went back again, and it's new, it's different. That's worthwhile. And to shift gears just before we get to Rita's thing, and for the history end of things, because I don't know what happened in the RS, or not the RST, but the previous to the BRC version of whatever the heck this was called, and then whatever happened before that. And I see Mr. Weiss may have checked out because I expected him to be the Oracle, but maybe Don knows. Has the testing standard actually changed? The end of class skills test, has it actually changed? Because from what I can see from BRC to BRCU, yeah, okay, the numbers changed, but the ratio didn't. So other than the fact that we added on another corner, I don't see it as being a big deal. Did it change from before that to literally make it easier somehow to get your license?
We tested the same. We tested the same stuff. Slow speed maneuver, cone weave. We did turns in the corner. We did braking and swerving. As far as an RSS evaluation.
Yeah, well, the MSF has tried to, here in New Mexico, the MSF now does literally all the state teaching because the state testing, because the state testing here outside of Albuquerque is a joke. But there's a whole other section of the MSF that has to do with standardized testing and trying to get people onto the same page. So it's gotten better, but it's still kind of a crapshoot. I mean, I let my endorsement lapse here in New Mexico years ago. So I went to take a writing test and made the arrangement. And I showed up on a Sportster and they said, yeah, you rode here. Well, that's half the test. And then now ride in a straight line and show us that you can stop. and then do a figure 8. And that was the extent of the rider test. When I got my license when I was 16, I walked out of, I was leaving a DMV, and the woman said, "Young man, excuse me." I said, "What's that? How can I help you?" She said, "Do you have a motorcycle?" I said, "Yeah, I have a dirt bike and a street bike." And she said, "Give me your license." And she stamped it with an endorsement and said, "You're going to need this when you're out there riding." So things have progressed, but none of us are on the same page.
Okay, so on this level, has what just transitioned between 3 people, how does that get me to go to IRETs?
What I
Robin,
what
you're
I
gonna
was
get
going
my
to say, Robin, was the fact that you've been consistently consistent about showing up to these tribe talks. Have you
I
not?
want to be better.
Yes or no? That's easy. No syllable.
Yo.
All right. So this is exactly what you would get from IRETs, except we'd be together. And there would be a lot more information, a lot more pointed discussion, and a lot more takeaways from 2 days worth of this stuff, or 3.
Okay, and I mean, like I said, honest to God, the fact that this is a broadcast situation, if I'm going to do anything, I'm trying to represent anybody who might have the same mindset that I'm channeling. So, I mean, you're speaking to that. That's cool. You're answering to it. That's cool. I mean, the last one wasn't the last one in Kerrville.
I think Columbus.
No, Columbus, Ohio. Well, there's the reason I didn't go. That's my hometown.
All right. So Rita's had a couple
I can't legally go there ever again. I don't know.
Back to the Transportation Review Board, Rita has put up that they have eliminated the motorcycle and moped subcommittee and has no representation for motorcyclists for the foreseeable future.
Wow.
At the TRB and at this conference. So once again, you know, we have these model national standards. We have NHTSA that kind of highly recommends that states do things in a certain way. And we have state programs, most, not all, who try to at least adhere to those recommendations and standards. We've got the state motorcycle safety administration, or whatever their new name is. I think I should know that better. But SMSA is there to represent us in such things. And yet here we are, a strong contingent of transportation, and we are not being represented. How do we change that? You know, if we're ever going to change the view of being a rider coach and teaching students how to ride, don't we have to be putting some of our effort toward letting everybody know that it's important at the highest level?
But if that's what we want rider coaches to do and the way that we want them to engage, at what point in the process of screening or recruitment or training are we saying, hey, this is what we hope for from you? We're not doing that. I'm not screening people for having a broader vision of involvement in pushing the needle on rider training and motorcycle safety.
But aren't you involved with SMSA?
Me, no.
No? Okay. Sarah corrected me. I appreciate that. Thank you, dear. But, you know, the fact is, many of us we're at least in tune to some of these organizations. How do we make our voices heard? How do we move the needle on motorcycle education?
If we want to improve our coaches, if we start with our existing coaches, perhaps we can, for each individual coach, develop a gap analysis for them that we know where they are at the beginning of the season and give them a reasonable goal to meet at the end of the season. And it would take, it would require having a meeting initially and then at the end of the year, but at least you can review what that particular coach did to up their game.
That's a start.
I mean, nobody, at least in the hierarchy of the organization that I work for, is ever soliciting input from coaches or trying to engage coaches in, say, the legislative process or anything like that. Like, I think we all assume that that's going to be motorcycle organizations or somebody else that's not us. So if we want people to engage in that way, then I think we need to do a better job of setting that standard right out of the gate for rider coaches, and then encouraging them to take that point of view and to engage in that way. And right now, I don't think that's really happening at all beyond what goes on here.
Laura, I think you're right, and we have a similar situation. And from what I have seen personally is, if you want something done, you better start doing it yourself. And I think Don clearly did, and we're kind of following along in this process. So it's a start, but that's where I got to the point where I'm bored with this. So let's go do something else that goes down the line I want. And if somebody comes along, hey, great. Or maybe they'll show me the error in my ways. I would love to be the person, the coach that Belinda was talking about. I find so many barriers to the rest of my life that is very much just in time everything to being able to do that as a coach when I'm now the face and the office for the business. But I'm trying.
You have a business?
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we as coaches probably nudge our students harder to be engaged in motorcycle rights, shall we say, in that process than we do as rider coaches or rider coach trainers or people who are involved in candidate selection and hiring. And I never thought about that until now. If that's what we want from people, then let's start at the beginning.
So it's nearly like we're trying to set up a union.
Well, no, it's really a good place to start, but I think Don's on to the crux of the biscuit, so to speak, is we need to change the culture. Has anybody here ridden in Europe or ridden in Australia? Totally different ball game. I mean, if you ride in Europe, the perspective in Europe is that this is recreation, this is transportation, this is so many different things. Whereas here in the US, a lot of motorcycling is considered to be recreational. So it's sort of like I saw an interview of the guy up in Maine who's the senator who rides, and somebody said, well, you're a motorcyclist, but you'll never be a biker. And it's that same kind of perspective. If our society, if our culture had a different approach to thinking of motorcycles, how they were used within the culture, we might immediately have a broader voice. I mean, I ride because that's what I want to do. Anytime I'm not on a motorcycle, my wife says I'm cranky. And so it's just part of who I am. I think there are a lot of people out there who ride who that's not the case. I think everybody here, that's pretty much part of who we are. That's why we're here. So how do we change that culture? That would be my question. I think that's leads into what Don's talking about, is how do we get more representation? I mean, guys, we're on the cusp of self-driving vehicles. So when self-driving vehicles become more the norm, how's motorcycling going to interact with that?
I like Mike's response here, because that's where my mind was going. And it goes back to, I think something, was it that you talked about last week? Exercise number 8. Can I skip exercise number 8? Well, sure, but what other ones can we skip then? And, you know, if we can do that for students, let's do it for rider coaches. And since we're just, you know, skipping it for rider coaches, trainers, students, why do we have to do this at all? So to give a reverse perspective of what Murray just says, I've written in Asia. They don't do riders training. And, you know, let me think, Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, 10,000 people, 9 million motorcycles or two-wheeled vehicles, none of them trained. Their whole family rides on it. And, you know, they seem to do okay. So why are we so worried about what we're doing here?
Yeah, go to India, see what India looks like.
Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Vietnam, you had a husband and wife, 2 kids, and a box of chickens on a Honda 50, cruising through traffic in flip-flops, and the woman sitting side saddle and all kinds of things, and they seem to be doing okay.
You're talking about the Super Cub.
Indeed.
All right,
I had a 1967 Super Cub. It was great.
Down to about 20 minutes. You can read what Rita has put up. I had another request from somebody else, and this goes out. I couldn't answer the question, so my wife said, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And I said, "I'm gonna go to the tribe because they're smart and they'll figure this out." I had somebody called me about a QA program today. The state that they work in doesn't have an active one yet.
Ooh.
And they have like 9 sites and 45 rider coaches that they would like to kind of start a quality assurance program with. They're MSF quality assurance certified, but because of the oversight of their area, their jurisdiction, they don't have a quality assurance program. So what would you guys do in this situation?
Well, I'm QA certified for MSF and for Harley Davidson. So my take on it is I would be going out and just visiting sites and observing and seeing what's going on. I'm amazed that there's a state program that doesn't have a QA arm that's active, just from a reliability standpoint.
Extenuating circumstances at the moment.
Sure.
So, you know, would you be checking sites that aren't yours? And what about the jurisdictional constraints of having somebody on their own walking around and checking out sites under your program, even though you don't have a QA and you're in charge? Wouldn't that step on somebody's feet?
Well, okay, so let me make something clear. I'm in an MSF state, so to speak. So the contract we have with the Department of Transportation says that each site has to get 2 QA visits a year. And the Harley programs are separate within the state. And so Harley has come in and said, well, the state says you have to have 2 visits a year. So all the Harley sites have to do that as well. So circumstantially, it's a different situation. But I mean, in states where you have private enterprise doing training, that's a whole different ballgame. I don't know what to tell you.
Jason's got a something percolating in there.
Oh, I do, and I want clarification. So you said there were 9 sites with 45 coaches, and that's statewide, or
No,
in
that's
that jurisdiction?
just under this individual. This individual is somehow in a management position of those 9 sites and 45 rider coaches.
Oh.
There are more in the state. However, the state has an overarching program that may look down upon somebody on their own going out and doing QA. Even though you're certified.
If you can't begin with self-assessment, it's never, if you're not willing to do self-assessment, it's not going to go anywhere anyhow. As far as being the official, the state said this is good enough. Okay, I can see how there might be somebody, because everybody wants to hold on to their power, that the state's going to come and QA you on the backside, make sure that they think that you're as good as you think you are. But all in all, it's an opportunity for improvement. One of the challenges, I guess, if you're doing your own stuff, this doesn't matter so much. But one of the things that I found out recently was, we know that as part of the agreement with MSF that, hey, a scheduled QA or even a non-scheduled QA is something that should happen, and you are, we'll call it contractually allowed for that to happen. The insurance for the person coming onto my site to do a QA has become a challenge. I asked my state director, because the QA team in Wisconsin is kind of part of the state, but they're all contractors. I said, so are they insured? And what I got was, well, they'll sign the waiver. And my insurance company went, yeah, no, either they're in your class or they're not, or they have their own insurance. So that became a challenge that we got to come up with the right answer. The good on the QA thing is, I honestly say I know all of them and probably where they live. So not a huge deal, but when the day comes that I don't, that could be something that comes up that I'm concerned about outside of the, am I doing a good job? It's what if they get killed on my range? Or cause a problem where a student's going to blame that other person on my range. I know, totally outside of the scope of the QA thing, but back to what that person should be doing. Gosh darn right, you should be doing self-assessment. There's nothing wrong with doing your own QAs to have your own records. And if the state thinks they need to do it on top of that, how's that different than a nice visit from Dr. Ray that, hey, I was at the airport and got a 4-hour layover. I thought I'd come out and check you guys out. Is anybody going to meet that man at the door and say, no, turn around and go back where you came from? Because I'm not.
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point. I mean, one of the functions on a different corporate level of QA is it's an assurance that a given organization or site is within the parameters of the curriculum, which means they have insurance. Because if you're outside the parameters of the curriculum, if you're using the MSF insurance anyway, if you're outside the curriculum parameters, you have no insurance. So QA helps to say, this is what's happening. I'm all for QA. I mean, we have a site here in New Mexico that missed out on the QA all year because of COVID. And they have a couple of rider coaches that are, I'll be polite and say, problematic. And had QA shown up and actually gone in there, they probably would have been suspended, or they would have somehow been dealt with to say, you're so far off curriculum, we need to fix this. That seems to be, that to me as a QA person, I'm not out to ding somebody. I'm out to go in and say, hey, we have an opportunity here to get better. So let's look at what's going on and how can we make it better and how can we assure that we're in the curriculum. But I think I agree with Jason 100%. Even if it's self QA, you need to be doing it.
So Don, your question sounded like it was how to get buy-in from 9 disparate sites for the initiation of some kind of QA. Is that?
Guy sitting in the seat in corporate says, we're doing QA. That's how you get buy-in. If he's in charge of 9 different sites, like Jason is, you say, okay, guys, here's a new program for 2021. We're doing QA. And so here's the schedule. And yeah, we're going to make this happen.
I'm sorry, I'm still dealing with the hack.
So the person was looking for advice about how to implement some kind of QA across 9 disparate sites. Is that what I understand, Don?
Yes.
Not 9 different sites with 9 different organizations, or
9 different sites, and he had 45 different rider coaches. I think his frustration was he can't use the MSF's QA module.
You don't need to do that. I mean, I think the way that it has worked in Minnesota is that it, and this precedes me, but that was found to be some kind of a limiting factor. And so we just set up a system. I mean, set up a system on our own outside of the MSF QA. And my understanding of that was that the reporting system was what made it too cumbersome. So it's not like it's rocket science to say, here are what the curriculum standards are and how it should be delivered, and get people to do that and, you know, work with the sites and the coaches. That didn't seem like a big deal to
From a
me.
reporting standpoint, you're right. There's tons of ways to do that outside. I am the biggest geek for Google Forms because it's free, and
Sure.
you can use what the hell is that called? Somebody showed me how to do a mail merge and create documents based on an Excel spreadsheet. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I give it to students and they check radio buttons or maybe write something short in. And I have something that looks like a tangible document that somebody cared and made it up. And literally they all do it on their phones every day. So we extrapolated that to the crash form. And why couldn't you make any form you wanted? And then it's there, it's free. And aside from the hackers that show up for Don's podcast thing here, it's probably easy to get information for anybody. So if you're going to implement it, that's the cheapest free way I know.
Yeah, that's basically what we did. And I will say that creating a form for that purpose was not necessarily quick or easy, but it also wasn't a gigantic job. And so the tracking of that for our purposes at this point is manual, but I mean, it's also a pretty new deal. So eventually you could have that be some grand computerized thing.
Yeah, well, there have been problems, I think, with the MSF system because they had QA 1.0 where people got certified and they put this thing up on the MSF site, and then it came out with 2.0, and I found out kind of serendipitously that I was the only person in the state of New Mexico that was qualified on 2.0. So when that site came out, I was the only one that had access to it. So we had people doing QA stuff and then feeding me the information. And then I was going into the site and actually filling out the forms. So that's been problematic, but I think I agree with Jason. It's more important that you're doing some kind of QA, whether it's MSF or Google or whatever it is. It's more important that you know, you're looking at your coaches and your sites and seeing what are they doing and are they in the curriculum and what are the outcomes and, you know, how are the coaches reacting with the students. There's so much stuff you can look at there. It's just more important to be doing it than not. That's all. I don't know.
I imagine the resources, Don, are one of the major setbacks of this system. Is you can give this person all the insight they want, but if they don't have the human and the financial resources to get it done, they're probably going to have an issue.
True. Yeah. It's a case.
Yeah, I mean, really what was the biggest wrench in the works for us with that was choosing the people to do that, and or whether or not those were the right choices or are the right choices.
Well, the first version of the MSF QA system was looking to find, at least here, again, New Mexico, was looking to find what people were doing wrong and fix it. And people were getting dinged and getting written up and all kinds of things. And so when they did the 2.0 version, the whole change in perspective was to say, well, this is an opportunity to get better, and we're not up for dinging anybody unless it's really bad, but we're more interested in how can we get our coaches to be better coaches.
And if the people that are making those assessments are not good coaches to begin with, then it's a problem.
Well, yeah, well, I went through for for the first level of QA, I went through a 3-day workshop. And the second level, I went through another 3-day workshop with Ray Oakes and a couple of other people from Irvine. And you had to test out of it and there was just a lot of discussion going on there. So it really depends on who you choose and how they're trained and how they're motivated.
So that brings up a great question. How many people in this forum are QA certified? Just random.
Cool.
Better than half. Good, good. And what was your take on QA? Is it quality assurance or is it quality coaching to assure things are better?
Like quality assessment.
It covers both, and you know there's overlap, but not always congruity, because you know, as far as we're going in there representing the DMV and doing quality assurance, that's measuring a minimum standard and certifying that a minimum standard is being met. But as mentors, we're going in and trying to ensure that a maximum standard is being met. So we're kind of covering both ends of the spectrum. It's something that I guess in some places it might be better served to split that and have some people going out and measuring minimums and other people going out and strictly doing mentoring. But I guess that's sort of impractical from a dollar standpoint.
Yeah, well, you have to assure that your range meets all the standards. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's minimum standards for fire extinguishers and bikes and paint and all the rest of that stuff. But the MSF form, if you will, and the Harley form has moved more into mentoring to say, how can we help our rider coaches to be better? And I just think that's a good move. And if you're doing that, then I think you're on the right track, whether it's like in Minnesota or in Wisconsin or wherever. You know, I'm one of those guys, I don't care what it looks like. I just want it to work.
So we're coming down. We're at the end of the evening now, and I have one more topic. And Laura brought this up. Thank you, Laura, last week. And that is how many people have been out to the newly established forum, and what can I do that can make it better for users?
You know, I swear I looked the other day when I was going through finding people's MSF numbers and didn't see the forum button.
There is no forum on MSF anymore. The forum I am talking about is the one on RiderChoices.com.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so I looked and I didn't see your question, Laura. And
it's there now.
Huh?
Yeah, it's there now. I think.
Yeah, because because I looked and because I went on and I went in there. Okay, there it is right there. Okay, yeah. And so yeah, no, I mean, I think that's when I looked, I didn't see it. So
yeah,
I mean, I think I think it, like I said, I think that was my confusion, was how to, you know, I was looking to do it, and but I did, you know, I see it now. It's just really, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, Don. I mean, you go there and you go into the RiderCoach info, and forums is right there. List of members.
So I want to encourage people to start posting just as a way, partly to give it a shakedown, because when I looked at it today, I saw my question, and then once I clicked around a little bit, I saw that Mark Weiss had actually posted a response to that, and that wasn't evident immediately when I went to look at it. So I don't know. I can't identify exactly why I didn't know that there was a response to that, but
that's because of a cache system. It didn't load up. It didn't load up immediately, and there's no JSON data that's being sent to your browser. Do you want me to try to hack it?
I think it was more complicated than that. No, Robin, I want you to post some stuff.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, I'll post some nonsense.
I'm actually too new to say much about it, but I'll go on and post some stuff and take a look. And Yeah, the MSF doesn't really have one anymore, so it'd be nice to have something that we could all interact on. Although this is totally cool what we're doing here.
Well, this is a thing, but there's
Yeah.
gonna be coaches that have all kinds of questions that they want to get. New coaches, old coaches, doesn't matter. I was thinking that like somebody else was about to say something, and I'll try to keep this short. My worry is, what if it goes the way of like multiple outlets? I don't know that it would. I mean, if this gets popular, then it might be the outlet. That'd be kind of cool. But like if somebody else starts another MSF forum, and this like, which sect of the MSF forums do you subscribe to? You know, do you have to go to all of them? That kind of thing. It could get hectic. I doubt that'll be the case. And I was serious. If you would like me to try and hack it, I could try to find your pitfalls. Because hi there, Code Monkey.
I don't need any more kickstands tonight. Thank you.
Oh
man,
guys,
I'm receiving them in personal IMs that, did you post this? I'm like, oh God, this is not going to go away easy.
Nothing says motorcycle safety like full frontal.
Yeah.
My wife is telling me that it's time to have dinner, so I'm gonna say good evening and thank you so much for letting me participate again. I'm really enjoying this, and I'm always going to be the devil's advocate, so I'm never insulted if somebody tells me to shut up. So you guys have a good evening, and I'll see you next week, if not before.
Thanks, Murray.
Well, hey, thank you all. Bye.
So I like the topic on there that says upcoming course opportunities. Okay, now that I've gone back and looked and kind of dug around a little bit, I do like that you have that up there, because that's something that, like those of us that do want to do QA or want to do ARCs, all the information we ever got was from, we can only post on the Facebook. So I appreciate that. So if anybody, make sure you guys get that word out, because that'd be great for people that are like really seeking to do that. So I like that part of it.
I'm completely flexible here as long as I have the time to maintain it. And, you know, if people use it, it'll stay. If people don't, you know, I got other things I can do. So once again, it's all up to the collective we to make things happen. Thank you for your patience tonight with everything. I really appreciate that. Rita did a great job last week in passing on my wishes for being with you all when I was gone. I wanted to explain a little bit because I think it's kind of cool. I had the opportunity to shepherd, basically teach or facilitate a group of complex post-traumatic stress first responders and veterans at an integrated retreat last week. So a new view of life, a new appreciation for how blessed I can be at moments, and specifically for being around people like you. It means a lot. And I want to say there are people out there that are in dire need of a good tribe to hang out with. And I know how good it is to have one only because of you all here tonight. So, hey, we'll try this again next week, but probably have to be sending out some sort of password now to keep the freaks out. Except for Robin, we'll let him in.
That will not stop me. I'm just
any last minute alibis before we kick it off for the evening?
Well, this is Sal from Little Rock, and I apologize for getting a little overzealous about the Harley thing, but I truly believe that Belinda is on the right track, because that's what I do. A lot of follow up. I invite a lot of people on my Facebook, and we talk. I actually created a Facebook page just for the students so they can communicate back and forth with us. So kudos to you.
Did you hear that, Jason?
Good
Hey,
job.
Jason, did you hear that?
Good job. So
thank you very much.
That's my 2 cents, and thank you.
Thanks, Sal. And it's funny because I wore this shirt tonight. You know, I've only got one, and I don't I mean, one Harley Davidson. I used to have more, but I don't normally do the brand thing. The point I wanted to make about this shirt, though, is why aren't all the manufacturers setting up rider education like Harley Davidson? And I've discussed this many times. Is it about selling motorcycles? Well, hell yeah. Why not? Because we need riders to fit on those motorcycles. And if we're educating riders and we can live in that same space, I mean, we would not be here if it wasn't for manufacturers. So, oh, by the way, the board members and the contributing members of MSF are all the motorcycle companies. So why isn't there more manufacturers that have gone this route is beyond me. It truly is beyond me. Some people get it, some people don't. I hope that in the future that becomes the standard that everybody wants to follow. Can-Am doing a good job. Jason knows. Harley Davidson. I know many independent dealers that run stuff. We got the Honda sites in Ohio and Georgia and other places, I believe, as well. Why don't the manufacturers step up and help out a little bit more is beyond me. Love them all. Want to help them out with new riders. That's my thing. Who knows?
You know, Don, that's a great idea that other manufacturers do it. But one of the things that is kind of unique to Harley is that they have so many single brand brick and mortar stores. And in the northern region, the Harley dealers sell snowmobiles, but they don't sell Hondas. And to be able to have the OEM that gives them an opportunity, that backs it, that I don't want to say force them into it, because I know dealers that are just like, nah, I'm not going to do that because I don't see the benefit. But those that do take the ball and run, to what Sal said, the mission of the program, and I've heard it while being at the mothership in the brick building, right out of Ray's mouth, is if they're looking to run a riding academy as a for-profit standalone entity, like a fixed operation, they're probably doing it wrong, because we want to create the culture, we want to create the rider, and if they have that value added to the dealership, hopefully those customers are eventually, if they don't do it right away, they're going to come back, because they didn't go to Harley Davidson because they thought they wanted a Honda. They went to Harley Davidson because they thought they wanted a Harley. And even if they can't afford it, it's not their first bike, it's not the bike they want to buy and tip over, they're going to go back and buy that brand name. I say the same thing to the people when I started talking to Harley dealers about three-wheel training. They're like, no, we're not going to do anything. We don't want to have you put our customers on that Can-Am bike, because it's $9,000 and the freewheeler costs, I'm making this up, $23,000. Well, nobody came to Can-Am because they wanted a Harley. They wanted the license. They wanted the experience. Can-Am doesn't do potato. They don't sell the chrome stuff. They don't have the history yet. So if you want a Harley, come take the class. We'll help you out, and we'll give you tips on your Harley when that's all done too, if that's what you want.
I think dealers are happy to let us do it. It's a big pain in the neck running a training program, and they're happy if there's a training program in their neck of the woods that's managing it and throwing students at them. Why would they want to get involved? When I first opened my site, the Harley dealer called me up and said, "Thank God you're here. Now I don't have to do Rider's Edge." God bless you. And we've had a great relationship, so.
Dealers are happy to do anything that costs them no money and no effort. And giving you stickers to put on your door, they're happy to do it. But trying to get your sticker on their door, you got to have a good relationship, a really good relationship. And that's just hard to do because you're not a priority to them.
All right. So I digress and I ramble only because I love you guys. Don't take that the wrong way. We'll see you again next week. Feel free to reach out. Program administrator meeting tomorrow morning. I got to start considering what the heck's going to be. So that would be a very bad situation.
I want to listen to that meeting.
I can't take kickstands before noon, buddy.
Well, it's afternoon, so it's okay. Oh, no, you're in Minnesota. I said it would be.
Hey
an
man,
experience.
this has been the best episode of this noise I've seen yet. You know, it's coming from the person who wants to represent the worst in all of us. This was an awesome, awesome episode. Let's never do that again.
Latest book, Behave. Behave by Robert M. Sapolsky. It will blow your mind. And probably too deep. We'll see you next week.
At our next kickstand.